Hey everyone, TechPriestFred here. Today we'll be doing something unusual for my channel. We'll be making a beginner-friendly video for my Tacticus of Tacticus series. We will explain some basic stuff that new players most likely often do not know about the only true player versus player experience in Tacticus. So, if you are a newer player and have been finding yourself unable to perform and score points in Tournament Arena, this video is totally for you. Last thing that I wanted to mention is that this video is recorded in November of 2024. So if you are watching it at later dates, there may have been some smaller or bigger changes made to the game mode. But the overall basics and the tips from the video should still be valid. I would also like to ask everyone more experienced in the game that is watching this video right now to drop their Tournament Arena tips in the comments section below. Let's make this video a Tournament Arena encyclopedia that will help every beginner player out there. But before that, my channel got to 2000 Skitari recently, so I got a code for you guys. If you are watching this video later after its release, I'm sorry, the code won't be working anymore. Anyway, thanks for all your support, please enjoy those Actus shards. Back to the topic of the video now, okay? First things first, we need to understand the preparation phase before we even start playing. Tournament Arena has two ways of progressing for its rewards. The first one being tied to gathering points and unlocking crates with them, and the second one being tied to using the same points to be placed on a leaderboard, which will give players rewards at the end of the Tournament Arena event. Now, an important question for a newer player is, how do I get those points? Well, there are two sources of points income. The first one is connected to you being able to get match points during your game. You always get one match point for killing an enemy character. Keep in mind that it is a character, so the main unit that you pick for the match. The summons do not matter for scoring points whatsoever. Now, we have to make a quick stop to explain one niche mechanic that matters a lot in Tournament Arena if your or the enemy roster may use it. You see, there are two types of revives in Tacticus. The first one is called Revive and is instant after character death. This mechanic is connected to characters like Incises, Rodbone or Toph. It's basically preventing death. The second one is called Resurrect and is delayed after character death. This mechanic is connected to characters like Isabella or Zibia. It's basically returning from being dead. The huge difference between those two mechanics is that instant revives cause your character death to not grant any points to the enemy during a Tournament Arena match. Meanwhile, resurrects happen later, so the character death happened. So your enemy already has gotten 1 point for killing it once and could, in theory, kill the same character another time to get yet another point. Please be very careful when resurrecting your units in Tournament Arena, as they tend to be on low health and can be very easy targets to pick off and score points on. So, back to the main topic. First way of earning points during the match, killing the enemy characters, is covered. There also is a second way, but it matters only in Conquest variation of the game mode. During Conquest, you have 3 points on the map, most often in the middle between the two teams. Placing a character, again, not a unit, so summons will not count, on one of those hexes will grant your team 1 point towards the victory. In theory, you can win a Conquest match by capturing 3 points and killing just 2 enemy characters. Keep in mind though, that the point hexes in this variation of the game mode can be recaptured, which basically will transfer one of your points to the enemy. This can result in a huge swing if one player gets too greedy with his playstyle after capturing, for example, 2 Conquest hexes and overextending to finish the match, but miscalculating the damage potential of his team, thus not killing enough enemies. So, to fully understand points in Tournament Arena, we just have 2 more things to cover. First thing is the concept of redemption points. You see, when you lose a match, not everything is lost. You get some points for scoring during the match, so like we said, killing enemy characters and conquest hexes if applicable, but the points that you did not get transferred into the redemption pool of points. To get these points, you basically need to play yet another match. Your score in it, whether you win or lose, will then transform redemption points into the basic tournament arena points that work for crates and leaderboards. Simple? Well, simple. But there is one more thing that we have to keep in mind in terms of points. It's a simple one, really, but will be an ideal segue into the next part of the video. The last source of points that you get for playing the game mode is for winning when choosing a certain rarity. The base number for a win goes like this: 5 points for scoring 5 points during the match. And then we get rarity points. 2 points for winning on a common, 3 points for winning on uncommon, 4 points for winning on rare, and 5 points for winning on epic. And most likely, in the future, 6 points for winning on legendary, so that's 11 points total. If you lose, the formula for how many points and redemption points you get is basically like this: X points for the crate rewards and leaderboards, where X is the amount of points that you scored during the match. For a loss, this is 4 at max. 6 minus X points, so those that you just earned, of redemption points. That means that you are getting 6 points maximum for a match that you lost in a regular ranked queue, which means that you lose 1 to 4 points per loss, well, 5 if legendary tier gets added, when compared to the amount that you would receive for winning. Now, during a tournament arena season, each player gets to use up to 41 tokens for playing the main ranked queue in the game mode. This means that the maximum amount of points that each player could get based on their win rate and rarity cap is somewhere between. For a player that lost every ranked match when using a game mode token, this is 6 points times 41, which equals to 246 points total. For a player that won every game on common, that's 287 points total. For a player that won every game at uncommon, that's 328 points total. For a player that won every game on rare, that's 369 points total. For a player that won every game on epic, that's 410 points total. And finally, if a legendary tier win would be 6 points of a bonus, that would mean that a player that won every game on legendary would receive 451 points total. Keep in mind that some time ago we needed 250 points to reach the final crate, which meant that in theory a player could play all the tokens, and if he didn't win at least 4 games out of those 41 matches, even getting all the redemption points was not enough to get the last crate reward. Recently, Snowprint made getting to the final crate rewards easier by changing the points required to 200, which means that if you just play the game mode to its full potential and grind redemption matches to gather the points that you lost in the process, you are guaranteed to get to the final crate. We have the points covered. Now it's time to focus on pure gameplay side of the game mode. Rarities first, since, well, we just talked about them. To understand how rarities work in Tournament Arena, we first need to explain how they are determined. You see, when you pick a certain rarity and enter the queue, you get matched with another player who also has picked a rarity. But the system is far from random, to be honest. From what I understand, the queue system right now is one big bag that then tries to find the best match possible. The system first tries to find an enemy that picked the same rarity as you and has the leaderboard score close to yours. If it's not possible, the system expands to higher leaderboard differences and other rarities, but we are not sure which one is prioritized. Then, if all fails, it tries to do the same with players that queued up for casual games. First, it looks for the same rarity and event performance, and then it expands to other rarities and different leaderboard positions. Now, when a match is made, the system picks the lower rarity out of them both, but lets both players get their bonus points for each win on their chosen rarity. An example of this may be, You pick playing on Epic Rarity and you enter the queue. You get matched with Pablo Gonzalez 2007, who picked Common as his rarity. The game gets capped at Common rarity, but the potential payout is different for both players. Either way, the loser gets 6 points total, like we explained before, while the winner gets more. If Pablo Gonzalez 2007 wins, he picked Common rarity for his tournament arena experience, so he gets 7 points. If you win, you picked Epic rarity for your matchmaking, resulting in 10 points for winning, despite the gate getting downscaled to Common in order to match Pablo Gonzalez 2007 preference. This means that there is no need to get frustrated or mad if you get a lower rarity game. So, in theory, let's say that you want to score as many points per win as possible, and now you get into an epic tournament arena match. The problem is that your troops cannot deal proper damage and die very easily. This may be caused by you picking a rarity that does not fit your roster. You see, the rarities are not just bonus points, they are requirements for you to meet in order to properly complete on them. Each rarity has different requirements for you to meet in order to have a fully prepared character. Since this is a beginner-centered guide, we will focus on the most beginner-friendly rarity, Common. It requires your characters to be on 2 golden stars, level 8, achieved by a single rare experience book, with skills leveled at 8, equipment at Common level 3, and upgrades at Iron 1. Meaning that you'll have to get them from Stone 1 to Iron 1, which shouldn't take too much time overall. On the screen now, you can see a comparison of different rarity requirements that are there for each rarity in the game. Keep in mind, you can now get all the crate rewards even if your win rate is abysmal. It will just take more time, so there is no need to force yourself to upgrade your units to Epic to play the tournament arena on that rarity. It will just save you some time if you do that. Rarity matters only if you want to climb the leaderboards and fight for the top places, but that shouldn't stress you in any way, especially if you are a newer player. You'll get there eventually. Now, if your character is fully upgraded for the rarity of your choosing, his character portrait in selection menu will reference that by having a sparkling effect on it. If there is a sparkle, you can be sure that you won't be at a disadvantage whatsoever. Making sure that all your units are sparkly before the match is the best way to not feel overwhelmed when playing Tournament Arena. There's nothing more heartbreaking than seeing a newer player using beginner characters in Tournament Arena on Epic Rarity when their units are leveled up to Iron or Bronze, and they are doomed to fail from the beginning. Pick your rarity according to your level and make sure that you are maxed out for it to stand a fair chance. So, now we have points and rarities covered. We can finally get to the proper gameplay section of the video. We will take some time now to explain what variations of the game mode are there, so you can know what to expect. The first Tournament Arena variation that I'd like to cover is the Conquest game mode. The rule set is basically whoever gets to 5 points first wins, and you get points for killing enemy characters and capturing conquest hexes, like we mentioned before. The game mode comes in 2 mini variants, one with Machines of War and one without Machines of War. Keep in mind that your Machines of War also need to be properly leveled if you want to have a fair chance. The second Tournament Arena variation is the Power-Ups game mode, which is basically whoever kills the enemy characters first, but with the map having a few different, power-ups placed in strategic places. Now, let's quickly cover the available upgrades and some bonus info on them. The first power-up that we will cover is Health, which basically increases your maximum health by 200%. It is by far the most reliable way to increase the chance of your character to survive to the next round. The second power-up that is defensive is Armor, which increases your armor stat by 100% of your character's health stat. This is an amazing synergy for any character that has previously collected health power-up, making the combo an ultra tank. Without it though, your character still can get burst by the enemy team if they are using a high pierce character combo. The third power-up is damage, which increases the damage stat of your character by 100%. Keep in mind, it increases the damage stat, not all damage output, which means that it does not affect the damage potential of the character's active and passive skills. This works especially well for units specializing in high damage output with their attacks. The fourth power-up is melee hits, which increases the number of hits your character does with melee attacks by +4. This actually works for both basic attacks and skills, as long as they are marked as melee attacks. So stuff like Jäger passive will now have 6 hits instead of 2. The less hits your melee damage dealer has, and the higher the damage stat, the more you can abuse this buff. Like with God's Will, being able to one-shot 2 characters. One by a buffed hit from his passive skill, and one from a buffed normal attack or active skill. The fifth power-up is +2 hits, which increases the number of hits your character does with both melee and ranged attacks by +2. This also works for both basic attacks and skills, so if something is marked as either a melee or ranged attack, it will benefit from the bonus hits. This works especially great for hybrid characters, like Calandis, who can get her ranged snipe attacks from 1 to 3, while also upgrading her defense against melee characters by giving her passive +2 melee hits. Every power-up that you pick gives your character a shield equal to 100% of its health stat before acquiring the boost. The shield has good values thanks to this, but it has 0 effective armor, so everything does full damage to it. This means that in order to kill off a character that picked a dangerous power-up, you should first destroy the shield, preferably by using a damage dealer with high damage number and high hits, and lower pierce ratio since it doesn't affect shields anyway, and then you should use your other damage dealers to kill off the enemy character with the power-up. And that's basically the power-ups. The thing is, power-ups also come with more micro variations. Let's cover them quickly. The first thing that you can change is whether machines of war are added to the mix, just like in Conquest. The second variation is called Infested, and it makes Tyrannids swarm the board from both sides, attacking your characters and summons. You don't have to kill them, the point is still to kill 5 enemy characters, but the Tyrannid swarm shakes up the meta in the game mode quite a lot, and you will have to adapt to it to be able to win regularly. The third variation is called Draft, and to be honest, it's my favorite. This variation is basically normal power-ups without machines of war, but it forces you to pick 7 characters instead of the typical 5. Then, it picks 3 random characters out of the 7 for you and your enemy. The first player picks 1 character that they want to deploy. This can be an automatic choice or a well-thought decision based on the enemy composition and the map that you are playing on, and then does his turn. Then, the second player picks 2 characters and deploys them and does his turn. Then, the first player picks their last character and does his turn. After that, it's just normal power-ups arena. But composing a team of 7 characters that work together is a lot trickier than doing it with just 5 characters. The added strategy of picking 2 characters based on the enemy composition and map, plus the power-up placement, is a cherry on top, and if you like this kind of planning, this variation should also be your favorite. The very last power-ups variation is the newly released Faction Wars, when you pick a single faction and get a team full of them. You can see what characters compose each team. Some of the factions will have mixed characters, for example 4 units from their faction and 1 bonus character from some other faction to fill out the space, since they don't have all the characters released yet. The fun thing is that in this variation, Snowprint allows you to play with characters that you don't have unlocked by lending them to you. The borrowed characters are fully equipped and sparkling to fight at common rarity only though, so make sure to play on common if you don't have a full team unlocked and properly prepared yet. Please remember that once you unlock a character, you need to upgrade it to max the requirements anyway. It won't scale up like the borrowed unit by itself. One thing that this variation also changes is how points are given to the players. Basically, you can also get bonus points based on how many characters you have unlocked in the faction of your choosing. Having 3 or 4 characters unlocked gives you a bonus of 1 point per win, while having 5 unlocked gives you 2 bonus points per win. This means that in this variation of the game mode, you will unlock the reward crates even faster. And those are all the tournament arena variations that we have in the game at the time of recording of this video. There's a lot of variety and every player for sure will have some events where they can play endlessly and have unlimited fun. And there will be some events when they won't be enjoying the grind at all. The diversity of the game mode is awesome though, since it makes the experience way more fun in the long run. So, now we know how points and rewards are given out in the game mode. We know how rarities and queues work, we know what variations of the game mode there are. Is there anything more that you should know now? Well, yes, 2 small things. First thing is that the second player always gets a massive shield on all of their units until the first turn begins. This was added to prevent turn 1 wins with some nasty combos, preventing early blitzkrieg rushes. One thing that got prevented too was playing passively and turtling up. This got dealt with by adding Orbital Bombardment to the map after some rounds in the game. If the match drags on, you are running in circles with your enemy or neither of you wants to engage, the map will start to become a death zone. If your character will end their turn on one of the hexes highlighted by the bombardment zone, it will get killed. And now you should know all the basics and can queue up for a match in casual, ranked or redemption queue right now. Thanks for watching, praise the Omnizaya, and please remember that the machine is eternal.